In this week's micro lesson, we're going to take a look at a very basic chord progression. It's just two chords, a G chord and a C chord. And I'm going to show you how you might embellish around those chord shapes to make it sound a little more interesting. So here's the first concept. And here's the second one. Goes back to the G and so forth and so on. So I'll break all that down note for note and show you how to play that. If you need to download the tablature for this, you can get it by going to activemelody.com/micro and doing a search for ML043. Alright, so a common scenario where you might use something like this would be in an open jam or a writer's night or something where you're playing along. Usually there's a lot of guitar players. There's never a shortage of guitar players, at least not in Nashville. But a lot of people are just strumming these open chords, and you don't want to just do that. So one idea that you might come up with are some of these little embellishments that make the chord sound a little more interesting. So this first one we're going to do over the one chord. So this chord progression is a 1-4 progression, just a 1 chord and a 4 chord, a G and a C. So with a 1 chord, with a G chord, we're going to play this. And what I'm doing there is I'm getting out of first position and I'm going to this position here where I'm thinking about this major bar chord where you bar on the 3rd fret. But instead of playing the full bar chord, I need my pinky free to do a hammer on. So all I'm going to do is play the top 4 strings out of that chord. So I bar the first 2 strings with my index finger on the 3rd fret, middle finger 4th fret 3rd string, ring finger 5th fret 4th string. And I play a downstroke there, strum the first 4 strings out of that chord, and then watch this. See that little hammer on? I'm playing the 3rd string. Pinky goes down on the 5th fret 3rd string to create a sus4 chord. So you play string 3, then 2 and 1, then you go back to 3 and do a pull off with your pinky, and then the 4th string. So all together you have. And that's a great way to embellish around a chord shape. So even if you walk away with nothing else, you've got that lick you can use. So if you're playing it over an A chord or any chord shape, you can use that lick now. Okay, so that's what I did over the G chord. And then the song goes to the C chord. But here's a little tip for you. Anytime you're going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, one really nice little transition is to play the 4 chord of the 4 chord. So let me say that again. We're going to play the 4 chord of the 4 chord. So the 4 chord in this case is a C. So the 4 chord of a C, 1, 2, 3, 4, is an F. So we're going to play that F to get us to the C. Even if the band, even if everyone else, bass player, all the other instruments are just going from a G to a C, you can play that F to a C. So just remember that. That's another takeaway. In this, anytime you're going to the 4 chord, play the 4 chord of the 4 chord. Okay, so let's try that. Let's go from, and here's how I played the F, by the way. I just took this chord shape, the top 4 strings out of that bar chord, I slid that down 2 frets, and just played the top part of the F chord. And then I went down to the C chord that we all know. So, there's your F. And then when I played the C chord, notice that little hammer on that happened there. So I took my middle finger off. I went ahead and made the chord, but then I took my middle finger off. So that's creating a sus2 chord. And then you do the hammer on with your middle finger to complete the chord. You're kind of building the chord. So you have. It's just a nice way to kind of embellish around that C chord. Another thing, another little sidebar would be, you could go ahead and do a hammer on to the 3rd fret 4th string to create a sus4. So you got your sus2 and a sus4. So you got some different variations you can play around that C chord shape. Okay, so that's the lower end. The higher end, I came up here and played. It's kind of a pedal steel lick, but it sounds really nice, and it's pretty easy to do because I'm doing the same thing in 3 different positions. So what I did in my mind, I thought of the G chord shape like this. So I played the G chord here, and obviously I skipped the one in the middle there, but I played this one. That's using the A chord shape. Like if you play an A down in first position, slide it all the way up, so that you're barring, this finger is on the 12th fret, and then your index finger is on the 10th fret, 5th string. But I'm not going to play that full chord. I'm just going to play the top 3 strings out of that. So that would look like this. You've got these 2 fingers crammed in on the 12th fret, and then you've got your index finger on the 10th fret first string. Now here's how I played it. So that's where we're going with. That's the final chord. But the way that I played it was like that. So I barred the first 2 strings on the 10th fret, and then put my ring finger down on the 12th fret 3rd string. So that's not a complete chord. That's playing the sus version, the sus2 version. But when I hammer on my pinky to the 12th fret 2nd string, then I complete that chord. I just called out the other information because I want you to see how all I'm doing when I'm improvising like this is thinking about different chord shapes for a G. I know there's a G there, there's a G there, there's a G up here. And I'm thinking about the sus4 and the sus2 out of each of those. There's one I could have done there. So anyway, we just take that shape, and then I did the same thing. We walk it down 2 frets. There's your F. Remember, we can play the 4 chord of the 4 chord, and then we're going to play the same thing down at the C chord. So just think of that as your chord shape here, your F chord, and your C chord. And I've got all the strum patterns in the tablature, but that's the basic idea of these 2 embellishments. Hopefully you can use those and make your playing sound a little more interesting.